Welcome, everyone, to another episode of WRPL, All Things Consumed, a podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, listening to. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Well, today we are recording our 11th episode of our main podcast.
Woo, big 1-1.
Want to thank everybody who has listened, even just remotely, to any of these, because we appreciate any sort of support you guys want to give us. So, thank you very much.
You guys are the real ones.
All 9 ones. Of you. All right, so how you doing, Steve?
I'm good, Ben. How are you?
I'm excellent. It is the spooky time of year, my favorite holiday. What is your favorite holiday?
For me, it always fluctuates. There was a time when I was single where I really liked Valentine's Day. Not because it was just I could get a date for Valentine's Day or anything like that. It's just I thought it's a very underappreciated holiday in the sense everyone's always kind of oh, Valentine's Day is a holiday just to sell candy and gift cards. I love people. You should just love someone year round and not just one special day. It's yeah, but a lot of people don't do that. So It's nice that there's a holiday that's kind of just oh yeah, as a reminder to be with someone you love and appreciate them.
Yeah.
So I really like Valentine's Day, and now that I'm older, I think I just like any holiday that gives me plenty of food. So I might lean into Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving isn't one of my favorites just because of the family obligations. And a lot of the food I don't particularly care for. But it is a nice holiday that it isn't tied to any specific religion or anything. It's just let's get together, do the family thing, and give thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Christmas, but now that I'm older and I have so many nieces and nephews, I hate spending money on all of them. So Christmas, I don't care about anymore. So give me any holiday that has food and I don't have any sort of... if my one obligation is to spend time with family members, I'll spend time with family members. So,
well, Halloween has always been my favorite holiday. As a kid, it was mainly just for candy. Then it became more of the costumes. And now it's mainly because I love horror movies so much. And you just get a glut of them, good or bad, doesn't matter.
Mostly bad.
Mostly bad, yeah. But it gives me a chance to kind of ignore maybe other movies that I would watch and watch the stupid horror movie that's popping up on Hulu that I know is going to be terrible, but I love it. So I actually have a lot of spookier movies to talk about today, and our main topic is probably the spookiest of all things.
Oh, yes, I can't wait to get to it.
It's quite horrifying in many ways, but we'll be talking about Muppets Haunted Mansion, which is on Disney Plus right now. We're also going to talk about What If, the new James Bond movie, some other releases that have happened this month. So I'm going to start.
Go for it.
All right. So we've always said there's a no spoiler warning for this podcast. And I stay true to that. But if you haven't seen my first 2 recommendations, I recommend don't listen to this and
skip ahead.
Yeah, skip ahead.
We're not going to watermark it. Is that what you call it?
Time codes.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. You're just going to
just fast forward and hope you don't hear a spoiler.
Yeah. And I'm actually almost hesitant to spoil it for you because they are so good.
Okay.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
Just start talking about it, and if it sounds like something I want to check out, then I won't have it spoiled. But if it's something I was I'm definitely not going to watch that, then I'll have you spoil it for me. All
right. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Summer of '84. This was, I believe, a 2017 release.
Okay.
It's from the directors of Turbo Kid. Did you ever watch Turbo Kid?
No, it was on my radar, but I never got around to watching it.
You absolutely should watch Turbo Kid. I mean, Mad Max, but with BMX bikes. It's great. This is a lot more subtle and not nearly as crazy and weird, but it kind of flew under the radar, I think, for a lot of people because it reminded them of Stranger Things. So you have a group of 4 boys. They live in a small, quaint town, and all these boys around their age start going missing for years, and the cops say there's a serial killer out on the loose. So you have your main kind of archetypes. You have the fat kid who's obsessed with porn. Actually, they're all kind of obsessed with porn, but him the most.
What small boy at that age is it?
Yeah, they're all about 15. You have the nerdy kid who's all about doing his homework and stuff. You have the kid that wears the leather jacket and is too cool for school. You know, he's kind of the badass of the group, but mainly because he has a broken home and a shitty older brother, and he has to try to be a tough guy.
I'm sorry, real quick. That's a trope where, you know, the cool or tough kid is always wearing a leather jacket. Now I understand that there's like fake leather jackets or some sort of, but it's like usually that kid is always like the poor kid, and like leather jackets aren't cheap. Where the hell are these like kids getting these?
It's true.
Personalized leather jackets.
Well, this kid, the jacket's a little bit bigger, so I'm thinking it was his older brother's jacket that he's wearing. They don't talk about it, but it's just something I kind of noticed.
Got it.
And then our lead character, he's the one who, his next door neighbor is the hot chick. She used to babysit him when he was younger, and now, you know, she's about 4 years older than him, and they all like spy on her through the window with binoculars, and everybody's in love with her, and her family's going through a divorce at the time. And he's also obsessed with this crime that has happened in their town. He's fascinated by it, and government conspiracies, UFOs, Bigfoots, things like that. And most of the time his friends just kind of humor him, but he starts to believe that the neighbor across the street is the serial killer. He's this cop who has this very peculiar schedule, and they start noticing things like, well, that doesn't add up, and neither does this. Maybe we should start spying on him and gather clues to see if he's the killer. It's fantastic. It has that synthwave sort of score.
Okay, cool.
So it's very much like Stranger Things, except you don't have a psychic government, you know, monster girl added to the mix. It has a great story, great acting, well shot, and a really cool ending. And I highly recommend Summer of '84.
All right. That actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of a 2007 movie called Disturbia, which actually is, you know, say what you will about Shia LaBeouf, Disturbia is a fun movie. I saw Disturbia a bunch of times working at the theater.
It's definitely more than Disturbia, because he does some investigating and stuff. This is like they're following around town. They have a whiteboard of like when he goes out for a jog and you know, his whole work schedule and things like that. If you like this movie, I also recommend a movie called The Clove Hitch Killer, where it's kind of a similar premise, where a boy thinks his father is the serial killer, and he's, you know, finding these little clues and these little hints of maybe his dad's a bad dude. So that's a great double feature if you're into some suspense thrillers about local small town serial killers.
Cool.
What do you got?
I watched Dave Chappelle's new special.
Oh.
Dave Chappelle, The Closer. A lot of people are talking about this show, and we won't get into the, I guess, politics of, you know, what people can and cannot say, or, you know, is Dave transphobic or anything like that. Just coming from a straight comedy standpoint, and do I think that the special works and, like, is funny? I do. I think, you know, there's a reason a lot of people call Dave Chappelle the greatest of all time, or one of the greats in terms of comedy. As a big fan of stand-up, just seeing someone evolve like Dave has, where, you know, he has all his early specials that you can go back and watch, and they're all, I guess, more traditionally funny, because it's just sort of like observational humor, and just his interpretation of like race and everything is a lot of fun, and he still does that now, but now he's gone on to his like old man philosophical arc, and like how he views the world and like what he hopes the world can be and that kind of stuff. And it's real, whether you agree with him or not, I think his points are interesting, while also he's poignant but still hilarious. And I think if you're a fan of comedy, fan of Dave Chappelle, check it out. Don't just read articles, actually view it for yourself. Go all the way through it and then form your own opinion. Dave Chappelle.
And I know he had a huge contract with Netflix. What number is this?
I believe he had to make 6 specials, and this was the 6th one. That's why it's called The Closer.
Okay.
Because this was his last with Netflix. I can't imagine Netflix wants to get out of the Dave Chappelle business. So I imagine they'll offer him another deal, whether he takes it or not. Who's to say? Only because like he's known to not take big paychecks if it doesn't vibe with what he's trying to do. But with his with Netflix pulling the Dave Chappelle show when he said, "Hey, you guys release this thing that isn't in my name. It hurts my feelings," and they pulled it off. And granted, they had a deal currently with him, so that might have just been like, well, we don't want to fuck this up with you, so we'll do what you say, so you can keep working with us. I think he has a very good relationship with Netflix, so I think there's no reason for him to necessarily leave. But maybe he just wants some time off, so who knows?
And I can't see Dave Chappelle actually acting ever again.
I mean, he did the Bradley Cooper movie a couple years ago.
Star is Born?
Star is Born, yeah, thank
you.
you.
He was in that.
Yeah, he was a friend of Bradley Cooper. And I mean, I think he talked about it in one of his specials where he's just like, he met Bradley Cooper at like the White House or something. He's like, hey, I'm doing this movie, you want to be in? And he's like, all right, cool. Like, he's just like, I just thought Bradley was a cool dude. So I just like, I mean, he's only in it for like 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he's going to like star in a thing like Half Baked? No, but he might take a paycheck for something small every now and then.
Yeah, I know there's like 2 roles that I kind of wish we got to see him in, and one being Forrest Gump. Him playing Bubba would have been really interesting, and it would have been fun to see where his career would have gone after that and how he would have played that character. But the one I think we really missed out on was Be Kind, Rewind.
Oh,
he was supposed to be the Mos Def character, and I think him and Jack Black together, what an amazing pairing.
And I like Be Kind, Rewind.
I do too.
I think that's a movie that a lot of people haven't seen that should. It's like it's just a small movie, and it's like marketed as like a comedy, and it is, but it's not like particularly funny. I just think it's just like a perfect love letter to film and film fans. So I think if you like movies, Be Kind, Rewind is one of those movies that everyone should see. Yeah, in my opinion.
Absolutely. All right. You want to just talk about No Time to Die? Get it out of the way?
I mean, that depends on your other stuff. If you think that'll be more interesting, sure. But I wasn't sure if like more people would be inclined. Well, it's not even our main topic, so who cares? Let's get into Bond.
All right. So this is the 6th Bond?
This is the 5th.
The 5th?
Yes.
Daniel Craig, James Bond. I don't have much love for James Bond. I didn't watch any of the old ones. I saw GoldenEye, but I never watched any more of the Pierce Brosnan ones. I've seen enough videos of how cheesy and goofy they are, and I think I may appreciate those ones now because they still lean into the crazy gadgets that Bond is known for, and Daniel Craig's Bond just does not have that. He has a car and a watch. It's so not, and at least the car does a little bit more this time.
Yeah.
You get little spike balls and machine guns and stuff.
Well, I think in terms of this series, when you're trying to go for a more, I would assume, realistic approach, where like the stuff in the 90s were like, well, let's make it big and like crazy and fun. You can do silly gadgets and stuff. Where this one's like, okay, well, if you're a spy, I would think subtlety is like what you need. So you're just going to have the Gatling gun in the car, and you're going to have a watch that like scrambles stuff. You're not going to have some pen that can like is both like a laser that can like go through windows but also is a recording device, and you can throw it and it's a grenade. You know, you don't need all those features.
I don't know which one it is, but there's one where he has like toothpaste and it's like C4, and then he's got to put a cigarette in it as like the detonator, and like I want that sort of stuff.
That's cool.
I want that cool shit. But we don't get in this one. I really don't care all that much for most spy movies. They're very samey, especially even like I do like Mission Impossible. There always just seems to be like 2 things that happens in these is they get betrayed by their handlers or whatever, or there's a secret double agent within the group, and then they have to like go rogue and do the thing on their own. And it gets a little old, and it seems like every other movie in this was, I'm back on the team, and oh, now I'm going rogue, and you were right, Bond, we should have listened to you, you're back on the team, oh nope, now you can't do that, well, I'm going rogue again. It's just not interesting, and it's weird because like I like Daniel Craig. He's so good in Knives Out and not Lucky Number 11.
Logan Lucky.
Like, he's so good in those movies. And maybe it's accents. Maybe he just needs to do an accent in his movies. But I do not care for him in these. He
has an accent to us in this movie. So.
Yeah, no, I want a funny accent. He's just kind of boring in these movies. And I will say he's more fun in this. He has a little more quips, and he seems to be having more of a good time because these movies have beat the shit out of him, and he's gotten a lot of injuries, and they're not a lot of fun for him to make. And I think knowing that this was going to be his last one, he's like, okay, I could lighten up a little bit.
Yeah. Also, the same as you, I've never seen any of the previous Bond movies. So my first venture was 2006 Casino Royale. And I really loved Casino Royale. I thought it was like a ton of fun. A lot of like really like the opening like chase sequence with the guy like when they're running through Africa or whatever. I thought like was really impressive. And it might have been my first Mads Mikkelsen movie. I could be wrong. But I liked him as the villain who like cried blood and cool torture scene with like smashing his balls and stuff like that. And Daniel Craig's just like laughing at him. I just thought, that movie was a lot of fun. And then I became like a fan. I was like, okay, I'm on board with Daniel Craig as James Bond. And then I don't remember a single thing from Quantum of Solace. And then I saw Skyfall. I was like, man, this movie is shot incredibly well. And I liked that it was, to my knowledge, the first Bond movie that had like connective tissue that like went into Bond's past and who like M was. Because Judi Dench was the only person to like, I think, ever transfer from Bond movies. I could be wrong because she was.
No, I think the old ones had like the same cue for a lot of them.
Oh, okay.
But as I said, I don't know shit about Dick.
And I liked the emotional arc of that. It was, her dying and, getting a glimpse of like James Bond was like raised in an orphanage or whatever. And then I don't really remember too much of Spectre other than Christoph Waltz was Blofeld, which was a villain from the old stuff, which was like, okay, fine. But this one I actually liked for a multitude of reasons. Is it as fun as other ones? Maybe not. But I liked that it was kind of like an antithesis of what it means to be Bond. Like it still had all the core elements that make Bond, but also going like, okay, well, we're throwing this away because now he's changed and maybe the direction of the series will also change with it. Just in terms of he's not misogynistic really in this one. It's not about like just sleeping with a hot girl and then falling in love with another woman, because I think he slept with one woman in every movie and then had a love interest. And I know like when you're a spy, that's just part of the job is like sleeping with beautiful women, I guess. But I liked that he met Ana de Armas and there was kind of a scene of like, will they, won't they? And he's just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And especially, and I don't know if it was like on purpose from the writers, but like I like that she's like, yeah, I'm 3 weeks in. So he could have been like, this is my jam. She's like, I'm
what's expected of you.
Yeah. And first off, Ana de Armas, Jesus Christ.
Best thing of this movie.
What a stunner. Jesus. Anyway.
And a fun character. She's like goofy and kind of silly. I want to see more of her. Wherever this franchise goes, bring her with it.
So I liked her little scene, and like James didn't try and sleep with her because she was, the Bond girl of the movie. And then you had your first female 007, and there was kind of an opening scene of, is Bond gonna sleep with this girl? But like he knew she was a spy from the get-go, and they had a rivalry, which I thought was kind of fun, because Bond wasn't 007. He was always like the guy. And I like that they gave him a family in this one. And
even after all those ball whippings from Casino Royale, he was still able to have a kid.
Yeah. He was in like recovery at the end of that movie for like months till his balls like came back from inside him. I don't know what that recovery process was. Yeah, I like that they gave him something to fight for. And he had someone he loved. I mean, the previous other movies, it was like all about Vespa, who they did reference in this one, which was, well, I think one of your favorite scenes when they blew up her grave.
I was just taken aback, and he blew back so comedically, and after watching the Jackass trailer minutes before, it just reminded me of a Jackass stunt.
I thought there was some good action set pieces. I really liked the forest, the misty forest sequence. The opening chase was fine. I feel like we've seen Bond drive through a stony Italian Vista Street or whatever, like, and most of all, I liked that they gave like a definitive finale to this character. Like they killed him off, and I liked how he went out, and I like that he died as a 007, and he literally went out with a bang, and he saved the world and like he did what Bond has been known to do a million times over, but this time he just didn't quite make it out. But I thought it paid his character well and changed a lot of stuff for Bond himself. So, good stuff.
I thought it was a fine finale, and I know when we watched it, I was complaining about the runtime, but it really didn't feel
No, I was never bored.
I would say this is one of my favorite Bond villain plots. I like the weapon that can kill you based on your genetic code. I thought that was really interesting, but Rami Malek wasn't all that interesting of a Bond villain.
I think the worst part of this movie was Rami Malek. Not that he was bad, it's just like his villain I thought was uninspired. It's just like, oh, here's a dude with a scar and who has like he's putting on like a creepy voice.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really...
And it's funny that they still continue to do every Bond villain has to have like some weird facial deformity. Mm-hmm. Like, can we move past? Can they be villains without being like scarred people? Like, yeah. I think for people who are disabled or disfigured and stuff, it's kind of something maybe they should have left in the past. You got bleeding eyes. You got weird cyanide face guy.
Yeah.
Blofeld's got like a scar on his eye.
He's missing an eyeball.
Yeah. And now you got this one. It's like the only one that didn't really have a deformity was the guy from Quantum of Solace. Mm-hmm. But he's just kind of like a weird bug-eyed French guy. So it's just like, that's good enough. Whatever.
He's French. He's just naturally evil. Yeah, and it's like they gave him this cool mask that he really only wore in the opening scene. Mm-hmm. It's like... whether you like that mask or not, it's still like an interesting looking face. Like that should have just been his look. And I wish that, if they did some sort of reveal, maybe it would have been like obvious who it was from like the get go. I don't really know, but it's just a shame. It's just like you had a cool look that you showed in all the trailers, but then immediately got rid of it 10 minutes later. Mm-hmm. And it was just.
And to what purpose? Like it was a very like Asian influence mask, but what did it have to do with him personally?
I was thinking about that. I was like wondering, is this supposed to be kind of. Rami Malek is very racially ambiguous looking because is he supposed to be from some Asian culture? Because he's like wearing a kimono and he's got a Zen garden that, mm-hmm. Well, the poison garden is like a cool idea, and they should have like done more with that stuff. Like mm-hmm. He should have just been some sort of like, I guess he was like a poison villain because mm-hmm. he's just like killing all these people with not poison, it's robots, but like it's made to look like a poison kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Just I wish there was, I don't know, he had more of a theme or something.
Or maybe it's like. It came from him. He was like, since he worked with this stuff so much, he was poisonous to the touch, you mm-hmm. know? Maybe that's why he wore the mask, because like his breath was poisonous or something. I don't know. You could have done something with it, or have him die by those plants. He just gets shot. Like have him crawling through the plants and it's like touching him.
Shoves it in his mouth or
something. And it's like you could see boils happening and weird blisters and stuff, but no.
Or do a Bane thing, like he has to wear the mask to like regulate.
Sure.
Like keep him alive because
something
happened to his lungs because he was at a campfire thing and it was just like, oh yeah, I was with my dad and I grabbed some plants and I threw it on the fire and then I ingested the mm-hmm. fire, like spewed the spores into my mouth and face. Like you could have done something simple like that, yeah. But just like, nope, villain with a scar and I just want to kill whoever the fuck I want.
And they don't even say why he got the scar, right? Do they?
They did. I don't recall what it was though. I feel like he did have a monologue where it's just like, you want to know how I got these scars? I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can't really recommend it because I don't recommend any of them. This isn't really my bag. I gave this movie a C-. It's fine. I will never watch it again. Like all the other Bonds, I will never watch them again. I just don't care.
I think Casino Royale and Skyfall are probably more rewatchable. But I think this is... I've never, we both said, we've never seen the other Bonds, and people hold the Sean Connery ones in very high regard. I would imagine that I bet those haven't aged super well. I think you could go like, oh, these are great for their time, but I wouldn't be surprised if this Bond is like the third best Bond ever made out of 25 or 26, whatever it's been. Mm-hmm. But that's all personal preference. Yeah. And to your point of, Mission Impossible and Bourne and stuff. I feel like Mission Impossible is James Bond meets Fast and Furious. Like Mission Impossible is a ton of fun. Like it's what a summer blockbuster should be. It's actually like well thought out and it's never boring and Tom Cruise is great, but it is like ridiculous how it's the same plot over and over again, which is what the Fast and Furious franchise is. Yeah. Like, let's do the most ridiculous stunt possible while also being like a cool action thing. But like at least Mission Impossible has thoughts into it, where Fast and Furious has none. It's just like, let's just get the biggest human beings we can find and make them fight each other. And then Bourne, I think, is probably more realistic than James Bond, but I don't think Bourne's a fun character. Where like James Bond, like whether you like him or love him, I think he's more of an interesting character, and he has more fun with it than Bourne does. Because Bourne's always just like dour, and like he's only really
Who am I?
He's only really trying to like solve the mystery of himself. He's not really about like stopping some government's evil plan. It's like, oh, these guys are trying to kill me because I have secrets in my brain or whatever.
He is the like kind of the government secret plan. He's got to stop them by discovering himself.
I'm rooting for Bourne to live, not help people really. Where like Bond is saving the world but doing it with style. So
all right, well, I mean, that's all I really got to say about that.
Yep. I mean, I would say, obviously, if you've seen the other ones, go see this one. I think it's a great finale. And it's a nice send-off for Daniel Craig and his character, and I'm interested to see what they do with the next Bond, if they have the, female 007, or if they just, go Henry Cavill or something like that.
Continue with MI6. MI6. Continue with the 00 program. We don't need Bond, though. We don't need another Bond, because that means a new M, a new Q, a new Moneypenny. Yeah. I always want to call her Peace Nickel, because that's what they do on American Dad. But yeah, Moneypenny.
I think I'd be interested to see if they could they should just make a show and call it 007, and I'd like to see that world and be about the 007 program, and maybe you see multiple 00s, or not necessarily just sevens, but 001, 002, and then
what's the recruitment like? And it'd be interesting. They always hint at it, and I know it's like he was part of the Navy or something.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, a new release that came to Shudder was VHS 94. This is the fourth VHS in the.
There's been 4 of these things?
There's been 4 of them, yeah.
Wow.
And they got kind of worse and worse as they went. Like VHS Viral is the 3rd one, and I can't even remember anything being good from that. This one, I can't really say it's a great one either, but it has things I like. It's only 4 stories this time. I think they're like 4+ in most of them. And one of the stories is so damn long. It just keeps going and going. It's like all first person. I think it's like a Japanese crazy mad scientist who's putting robotics in people and turning them into death machines. And then when a SWAT team comes, it's all first person killer robot cyborg thing. And it's really gory, and it's fun seeing them trying to do like hidden cuts and stuff like that. But it's way too long. The first 2 are pretty good. One's like reporters going into the sewer trying to find this urban legend of the Rat Man. Everyone's seeing like this giant rat monster that has come out, and it turns out it's like a weird rat human hybrid creature thing called Ratma, and it's all the homeless people down there like sacrificing people to it. It's like really.
For a second, I thought you were going to say all the homeless people fused together like a
rat king. No, they just like offer up sacrifices, and it's a really cool looking monster, and it's a very simple story. The best one is probably the second story. It's about, there's a wake for this person who had committed suicide, and his body's all like in pieces, but they wanted to try to sew him up as best they can, but it's still a closed coffin. And so this woman is recording it. It's a wake, and it's like a wake in the middle of the night. All these people are eventually going to show up, but no one has. So she's just like sitting there waiting, and there's a huge storm coming, and then you're hearing like thunks from inside the casket. And someone eventually does show up, but they kind of like pay their respects and leave. And then when things start getting freaky for her, she's like chained in, and the coffin dumps over, and it's this corpse that's missing like from the eyes up, and it's just walking around trying to go after her. And it's just a really simple story, but it's really well executed. And the fourth one is kind of QAnon type redneck assholes who are trying to weaponize vampires, and it's hard to tell if they're because like they put the like vampire blood inside a rabbit and then they put it out, and when the sun rises it explodes, and it's like a huge explosion. So I'm not sure if they're like trying to
like
put
with flames or just
yeah,
like
with flames. No, with flames. Yeah.
Okay.
It's huge. And it seems like they're going to put a vampire in a box and drive it to some place and then pull the walls down and use them as a bomb. But then, of course, the vampire that they have captured gets loose and starts eating them all. And it's a pretty cool looking monster. It's pretty enjoyable. So it was fine. Yeah, I was excited to see it because the trailer looked crazy. And
did you look up any of the directors? Are any of them like notable? Have they done
on this one? No, I didn't. I think I did, and none of the names stood out, so I didn't really check in to see what else they did.
I think the first and second one had some people that went on to do
they
stuff.
did.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's if you like anthology horror, found footage type of stuff, then this will be up your alley. But didn't really knock my socks off. Yeah. All right. Also, a show ended this past week. What If season 1 came to a close. We got to see the big finale of the Watcher finally breaking his oath and doing something for once. The Watcher goes from dimension to dimension, getting characters that we've seen before, like Captain Carter, seeing Killmonger, Black Panther,
Star-Lord
T'Challa, and Party Thor, and Evil Doctor Strange. And it's like, hey, I need y'all to kill this Ultron guy because he's gonna unmake everything.
Become the new Avengers.
Yeah, the Guardians of the Multiverse.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think of this episode compared to the lead up to it?
Compared to the previous episode, it was not great. As an episode compared to all the other episodes, it was perfectly fine. This episode, I think, solidified for me that I will not be watching season 2 unless I hear a particular episode is like awesome, or I hear that the season is great. I did not care about the season as a whole. I have seen plenty of articles talking about like where they rank the episodes, and people love the Party Thor episode, and it is the worst episode of television I have seen this year, and I hate that episode. And I think Marvel missed the mark on this show and what it could have been, and instead of what they made. Like the finale's fine. I like the idea of like going to the different universes and picking these people out. I just didn't like who he picked out. It just seems like there's the multiverse now, but there's only 6 possible timelines. It's like, okay, like the Avengers have existed in all of these universes, essentially, or at least in most of them. It's like, okay, I get picking Captain Carter. That makes sense. I like Captain Carter. But you pick Killmonger?
Yeah.
It's like because
you saw he was a bad dude.
Like, yeah. And then there's like Killmonger in the episode gets the Infinity Stones, and like you're surprised, like, oh, the bad guy did a bad thing? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Like, why would you put that guy on the team just because he has the Black Panther suit?
Yeah.
And it's like, I like Star-Lord on the team. Get any of the Thor, then Party Thor.
Yeah.
Why would you pick the one guy who's just like self-absorbed, who almost destroyed Earth because he wanted to like drink beer and like throw a rager and was like date rapey? Like, fuck Party Thor.
Yeah. It's like there are many universes where there's all the Avengers. Go get 50 Captain Americas to do this.
Yeah.
Go get 50 Thors. Go get other Doctor Stranges. Why is it just one per specific universe?
And if you wanted to get like the evil Doctor Strange because he's the most powerful Doctor Strange and he's got like other abilities that you needed and he's the most wise because he studied all these books and stuff, like I'm okay with getting the evil Doctor Strange, but just I don't know, it's just like nothing about this episode really like blew me away. And you know, the fact that this guy is this all-powerful being and it was just a robot who was defeated by a robot virus, I thought was very sort of course it was. It's just, I don't know. I mean, it was fine. It's not like I necessarily hate that explanation, and it makes sense that they brought in, you know, Dr. Zola and, you know, whatever. But yeah, it was a fine finale. What was the like tag at the end or whatever? Or not necessarily.
Black Widow was able to go to a universe that she died in, and she got to just be back with the Avengers.
Right. Which, like, is nice, but also makes me wonder, like, okay, is that how we're gonna like
bring
Scarlett Johansson back? It's like, but that's not gonna happen.
That'd be so
like, at
weird.
least I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think so. I think she's, even though like with her whole lawsuit. She was just like, I'm looking forward to continue working on all this great stuff. Now, I think Black Widow's done for good. Maybe a cameo sort of thing, or maybe they'll pay her to use her image and stuff like that, because, you know, you gotta do that.
Yeah.
But I can't see her showing up. And how weird would that be if, like, she shows up and all the casual, just normal movie watchers would be like, didn't she fucking die? And like, oh yeah, you gotta go watch this cartoon. You gotta go watch 9 episodes of this cartoon to see why they brought her back in our universe.
And I don't remember, it's like, was she dead in that universe? Everyone knew, because I thought she was dead in that universe. She popped up and they're just like, oh, you're here. Like, no one was surprised to see her. I can't.
Nick Fury, he's like, I know you're not my Nat, but
right.
I bet you have a crazy story about this. And I think the universe they went into was the one where Loki becomes president, you know, at the very end. It was like, oh, no, because that's all the Avengers died.
Weren't they fighting the Chitauri at the end? Or
it was Loki and the Chitauri.
Yeah. Okay, so she just jumped
into like
2012 Avengers.
2012 Avengers, where somehow Black Widow died.
Okay, yeah. So it was just a nonsense universe.
Just a nothing
But it's
universe.
like, okay, so you just established there is a universe where they have the full Avengers. Yeah. Go grab those guys.
Grab Loki. He knows stuff.
Yeah, this show I don't think was well thought out. They could have done so much other cooler stories. And then you had Gamora, Thanos that you just kind of pulled out of nowhere and didn't really do anything with.
It was an episode that was supposed to be for this season, but the pandemic pushed it back, and they weren't able to get it finished by the time they wanted to release these. So it will be a season 2 episode. Gotcha. And I think it's, what if Tony Stark went to Sakaar instead of Hulk? So that's why he's in his weird armor, and it's got like the paint job of Sakaar. And I think either Gamora is going to be, maybe she rules that planet instead of Grandmaster, or she is she's the Hulk character. She's the fighting in the gladiator arena, and Tony Stark comes in instead of Thor. I think that's what it is.
Got it. Okay.
So and I was like, one I was looking forward to the most, just hearing what if Gamora was Thanos. I was like, that sounds cool. And so when and going back to like looking for help, he goes and it's like, Gamora, survivor of Sakaar, come with me. Not you, Stark. Why not? He's got a big old Iron Man suit. Let him just show up and shoot some bullets at Ultron. Why can't he come along?
Yeah. I don't know.
It doesn't. The rules don't make sense, but
no. And like, I think I like the Watcher, and I think the Watcher's cool, but he didn't even participate in the final fight. Really, it's like, isn't he the most powerful one on the team? He's just like, here's your mission. Hopefully you make it.
Yeah.
And
it's like I could only interfere so much, but it's like, look, you already broke your vow. Go all in.
Yeah. And just another side thing, I thought, this is just something I noticed, I don't know if you saw, but like the beginning of the episode, it had like Captain Carter and Black Widow having like banter like Steve and Black Widow did in the Winter Soldier movie. Yeah. And I honestly, from their banter, I thought like, oh, are these two gonna kiss? Like, I thought this was gonna be like a relationship. Like, that would have been like, oh, what if these two fell in love? It's like, I'd see that story.
I definitely would watch that story.
But they were just like, nope, BFFs for life.
Yeah.
But then it's like, oh, you're BFFs, but you're never gonna see her again because you got transferred to this universe because you'd much rather be with. I mean, it makes sense. It's like all of her friends died, so you only knew Captain Carter for.
No, Captain Carter went back to her own universe.
No, I know, but I'm talking about Black Widow.
Yeah, but that was a different Black Widow.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because she went back to her own and was just like, hugged Black Widow, and she's just kind of like, whoa, I just saw you like 2 minutes ago. What are you doing?
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. Got it. Well, either way, I did not like the show. I don't care about season 2. The animation I grew to be okay with, but I still don't love. I think it should have been, instead of a connective world, done interesting stories with different animation styles, much like Star Wars Vision, even though I haven't seen Star Wars Visions other than the first episode. This should have been an opportunity for Marvel to do fun, weird, cool shit, and they did some fun. Like, the zombies is a fun idea. I'm cool with that episode.
And we got to use a lot of characters that you wouldn't think would necessarily show up
Yeah.
in a What If story. And I think that episode is pretty good because we get Spider-Man, and we don't get Spider-Man in any of the other ones.
Yeah.
I want more Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah. Do non-connective stuff and just do, like, and also add some more heart and, like, maybe some darker stuff into it. Like, obviously the episode where, like, the Avengers die is kind of a dark episode, but that's why, like, it's one of the better ones. But it's just, like, everything happens so quick. Like, I wish these episodes would just slow down a little bit, give us more stuff to connect to and root for and be invested in versus just like, oh, here's a quick thing and now it's over. It's
Yeah.
like,
And that could have been a pandemic thing too as well, where they had to drop that episode and then it's like, well, we still have these extra scenes we need to do for all these. You got to cut them out. We got to just go as quick as you can. So hopefully next season, I know they said it's going to be more standalone. They're not focusing on an interconnected thing. So hopefully they can do some weirder things. I recommend, and I love this guy. I mention him like every other episode of our podcast. But Nando V Movies, he released a video of 50 what if pitches, and they're all just like real simple things. And so many of them are just like, wow, that sounds like fun. Oh, that sounds like fun too. So just look up Nando V Movies and you'll find it. But I love this show.
Nope.
I would recommend it, but I'm also a Marvel fanboy, so I won't forgive them for everything that they do, but I think this is, like, who would have ever thought we'd get a show where they would say, yeah, it's cool if we kill off someone who looks like Robert Downey Jr. That's cool. We'll kill him off 4 or 5 times in this season. I could see a lot of shows going like, oh, well, you can't mess with it. You can't have 2 Batman movies going on at the same time and not be in the same world. It's going to confuse people. And I think we've gotten to a point where it's like, yeah, we can do these crazy things and people are going to understand. So I really like it, and I'm glad we're getting a season 2, and I will continue to watch it.
and to be clear, I love the idea of What If, and the show has amazing potential. It's just I don't think any of this stuff was up to the quality I was hoping for that I've seen from Marvel time and time again.
Okay. Well, next episode of this, I want your what if pitch. I want you to write me one.
What if Marvel made something good?
All right. Okay, my last thing before we get to our main topic is another horror-esque movie that I also found on Shudder, which I'm not getting paid to plug Shudder, but I'm so happy I have Shudder now. There's just tons and tons of stuff. I can't wait to start the Creep Show television show and all the other crazy movies like Summer of '84 and this next movie I'm talking about, they weren't available to stream on anything. You had to buy them on Amazon, and so I just kind of sat on them. And then now Shudder just has like all these things I wanted to see. So I just spent so much time just like adding things to my queue. I'm just very excited. But this movie, I think it also came out in 2017. It's called One Cut of the Dead. Have you heard of One Cut of the Dead?
I have not.
Okay. This is a movie that if you are interested in filmmaking and kind of like low budget guerrilla style filmmaking, just go watch it. Don't listen anymore because I think I am going to spoil this one. And I shouldn't, because you really should just see it without knowing anything, but fuck it. Spoilers for One Cut of the Dead. All right, so Japanese movie, and it starts with this small group.
Well, before you, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you just give me, like, if I was reading the synopsis, like on IMDb, and it's like, if someone told me about this movie, let me see what it's about.
Okay.
What would be the pitch?
The synopsis and the trailers and everything is very misleading for a reason.
Okay.
So it's a group of filmmakers go to like an abandoned warehouse to film a zombie movie, but then zombies show up in real life.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Got it.
So that's like the first 37 minutes of the movie. These people are making a zombie film, zombies show up, and they have to, fight for survival. The thing is, one thing that you will love is the first 37 minutes is one take.
The first 37?
37 minutes, one take, no hidden cuts, no hidden edits or anything like that. It is legit one take. They actually said they had to shoot it 6 times to get it right, and I guess they nailed it on the second one, but there was like a corruption of something in the camera, and they lost all their data.
Damn.
So they had to do it again. I'm not sure which one actually, like, did they get it on the 4th, 5th, or 6th or whatever. But yeah, they did it 6 times over like 2 weeks, 37 minutes uncut. But you start noticing weird little things, like a character will stand up as if they're going to do something, look around, and sit back down. And it's like, oh, that was kind of a weird choice. And, you know, why is the camera focusing on this character when the action is going on behind you? And there's just like screaming and screaming and screaming. And it's just like, this is a weird little movie. Yeah. So then after the 37-minute mark, we cut to like 6 months earlier. And there's a TV production company who wants to shoot a zombie movie that is one take for a live broadcast. So what we are seeing is, so we saw their movie that they broadcasted, but now we get to see all the behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. And when one of the actors got too drunk to play a zombie, and how they had to try to like rig it to make it look like he was attacking the door. And why did that person stand up? Because someone was off camera with a cue card saying like, improv, we have issues and stuff. And so all these like weird little flubs you're seeing in the movie start making sense. And it is just like so amazingly well made, and it's funny, and it's got a lot of heart. It is just such a feel-good movie. And
when does this movie come out?
I think it's 2017. And
so it's like shot well. It doesn't look low budget.
Yeah, like the first 37 minutes look low budget and crappy, but then the rest of it looks like a real movie.
Oh, okay. Well, you sold me.
Yeah, and it is better going in not knowing, but I know you wouldn't watch it if I just said people are making a zombie movie and then real zombies attack. You're not going to care.
Yeah.
But the filmmaking aspect is what I know would sell you on it. I love it. It's so good. It's really charming and lots of fun.
And one cut of the dead, correct?
One cut of the dead, yes.
Okay.
I guess this movie was made for only like $25,000 and it made $25 million.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Was it just like the hugest movie in Japan at the time? Or?
It just got a lot of buzz, and it was kind of like the guy who wrote it was in film school and got a bunch of his like classmates to participate for free, and you know, they made it as cheap as possible, and then it just went through the festival circuit, won a bunch of awards, and blew up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, it very much is.
Well done, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, I think... Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so in the spirit of Halloween, I've just been watching a lot of YouTube videos of like top vampire movies, top zombie movies, and best movies of 2020 and stuff like that. And I came across a channel called Spooky Astronauts. And I will admit, I clicked on her link because she's a cute redhead. And it's just like, well, let's see what she has to say. And then it turns out she's Australian as well. So cute redhead with a cute accent talking about really messed up horror movies. And I was sold. So I instantly subscribed, and I watched like 3 hours of her stuff of the most frightening horror films and the most disturbing.
I don't remember a thing she said, but...
No, she isn't some, fake fan or something. She knows her. But she is like adorable. I love redheads and I love Australians. So it was like the best of all worlds. So I recommend Spooky Astronauts for her content, not necessarily that she's a cute Australian.
Great. Something we haven't really done on the podcast is like tune in next week for this thing. And I just figured it being Halloween, something to look forward to next week if you listen next week. Ben and I have been playing Man of Medan, the part of the Dark Anthology series from the same company who made Until Dawn, a sort of choose your own adventure horror tale. This one is about friends who get stuck on a haunted ship, essentially. And we've only played a little bit, so we're not going to spoil it here, but tune in next week. We should be hopefully done by then.
Hopefully done.
Yeah, and we'll have more to say about that. And also, we've been watching... Ben has finished it. I'm currently watching Squid Game, so look forward to that.
Yep. Also, Halloween Kills is out, and I'm sure I'll have something to say about that. And... there's lots more Shudder stuff, so expect a bunch of spooky things.
Who's to say what else we'll be watching and reading and listening and playing? But tune in for that stuff if you like horror and quality content.
Well, at least if you like horror.
Yeah,
I can't really attest to the quality content.
Main topic time?
Main topic time.
Let's get it.
So if you had listened to our This Meets That episode 3, it was all about the Muppets. We had learned that there was going to be a Muppets Haunted Mansion movie, and we did a bunch of pitches on lots of different genres and classic tales the Muppets can do, and in preparation for this, and then here we are today. Muppets Haunted Mansion on Disney Plus. It's like 57 minutes or something. It's real short. 53 minutes, yeah, which I was thankful for. If it was much longer, I don't think I'd be very happy. It's short, and I don't want to say sweet. For me, I'd say it's short and bitter.
Okay, so judging from that, I'll let you start. What did you think of it? Or like, what was your negatives, I guess? Because
I guess it's more on me. It's not what I was looking for. I wanted the Muppet Gang in the Haunted Mansion. Right. I didn't want Gonzo and Pepe. I didn't want just them going through the mansion for this, Why are they even... Oh, yeah, because it's the 100-year anniversary of the disappearance of a magician.
Great MacGuffin.
Great MacGuffin. Funny joke.
Funny joke, yeah.
And, they spend the night in the mansion, and then do they win something? Or I can't even remember.
It was just to prove that Gonzo was fearless, kind of
right.
like the crux of his... they offered Gonzo this challenge, and if he could make it to the next morning... He doesn't win anything, he just proves himself, yeah. I mean... Is that your only thought about it? Because I have lots of thoughts.
Well, okay. Well, I'll talk about the main kind of controversy for this is the original Kermit the Frog and Rizzo the Rat voice. Mm-hmm. He's been with the Henson family for many, many years, and there had been a falling out. He didn't like where they were taking the character of Kermit, and there was some issues about... kind of like the Screen Actors Guild sort of thing. And so the Henson family pretty much said, that's what he said. And then they said that he was actually kind of a difficult person to work with and refused to kind of play the game. And so they let him go. So we lost Rizzo the Rat, who is normally Gonzo's sidekick, which would have been really good for this because Rizzo's like the scaredy cat and Gonzo is the brave one.
I was going to bring this up.
Totally makes sense. But I think this pairing works.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're a good matchup, but they also had to recast Kermit, and we get an atrocious Kermit voice. I hated the way he sounded so much. Like everybody else, Fozzie sounds fine, Gonzo sounds fine, Miss Piggy sounds fine, but Kermit, I feel I do a better Kermit impression than this guy. It was really bad.
Yeah. Well, you told me before I watched it that the Kermit voice wasn't great. And in his first scene where he's like in a costume, his voice sounded like real messed up. I was like, why does his voice, his voice shouldn't sound like that. It doesn't sound anything like Kermit. And then my fiance watched it with me, and she's like, "Oh, he just sounds weird because he's got the pig nose on." I was like, "But he's a puppet. It's like you don't need to do like a voice. I mean, it's a nice attention to detail. That's where you want to go, but that's not something you need to do." Mm-hmm. But I think his voice was different wearing the nose.
Oh yeah,
I could be wrong.
You think it sounded better later?
I think it sounded better later, when you see Kermit in ghost form.
Okay. I really liked his Miss Piggy costume. I thought he looked adorable.
I think it's fun when they kind of lean into they always make their relationship very combative. It's just like, oh, Miss Piggy's annoying, and Kermit doesn't appreciate me and that kind of stuff. But I do like that they do when they do couple things together, like when they're actually show that they love each other. I like that stuff. I don't necessarily want to see them being at each other's throats because it's just like, oh, we're just with each other because we're like the two leads of the Muppets or whatever. I don't know. I'd like to see. Give me a Muppet movie where it's just like Miss Piggy and Kermit in therapy or something like that. I want to see.
They've had a pretty toxic relationship.
Or do a spoof on rom-coms where it's a meet cute of Kermit and Piggy and stuff like that. Give me all that stuff.
Give me an origin of that.
Muppet Company, put me in charge of development of Muppet content. I swear to God, it'll be huge.
You know, there's people going like, actually, they've already done that. If you watch the original show, we...
Yeah, I've never seen The Muppet Show. I haven't seen Muppets Take Manhattan. I've only seen the original Muppets movie, the Muppets from 2011, and Muppets Most Wanted, and now this. Oh, well, Christmas Carol, Treasure Island. Okay, I've seen a decent amount.
Yeah.
But
not like the deep cut canonical stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, anything else before I jump in?
I'll have to just spitball off you because there's so much of this, like, my eyes kind of glazed over. The crustacean goes to the VIP room and it's John Stamos who does like a weird jump scare thing and then it's done. And it's just like, that's all that was. It was just like, why even have John Stamos in that role? It's not like he's relevant to anything.
Well, I think in most Muppet stuff, pretty much all the cameos are just one joke quick, like it's like, oh, look who showed up. Like that's been Muppets from the get-go.
But it's one person in the VIP room, and is it not John Stamos? Is he a ghost? That's why he was able to like do that weird jump scare thing.
I get.
Okay.
Or maybe John Stamos in real life is just a ghost Muppet. That'd be fun. Yeah, I mean that stuff doesn't bother me because like, I mean the opening song is just a bunch of celebrity cameos as ghosts, and it's like. The weird thing about it is, like, almost all the celebrity cameos, and granted, I guess it's the same thing with all Muppets, is like, you have all these actors who, like, none of these kids know. Like,
hey, Ed
Darren
Asner's
Criss,
here.
who is the grave keeper, or the
grave digger.
Whatever. Like, I guess he would be the most kid-appropriate
but he was
cameo,
like,
but
on
like,
Glee. Yeah. And that's been off the air for, 10 years? The kids that watch that are adults now. The kids now don't know who that is.
Like, I know, I'm a fan of Darren Criss. I liked him on American Crime Story.
That's right.
In the Versace. I think he's great, but I don't think he's, like, someone who, like, maybe a ton of people know.
Yeah.
I don't really
That seemed
know.
like that should have been a Jonas brother or something.
Yeah, that would have been probably more appropriate.
You got, like, Danny Trejo and stuff.
Yeah, it's like all the other, like, cameos in this are people who are, like, 40 or 50 and are up.
Older, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, look, it's Carlton from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It's like, why? And did you know that, I don't know if you, like, really looked at the credits. I didn't get a good look at the talking statues, but, like, Pat Sajak was one of the, like, singing heads. It's like, what the fuck you get Pat Sajak for? No offense to Pat Sajak. It's just, like, I just thought it was just, like, a random head thing, but my fiance was just like, I think that's Pat Sajak. I was like, why? Anyway, so things I did. So here's the thing. I think is the special good? Did it? I enjoyed it, but my biggest disappointment is how much potential it had that it squandered. So one, it's weird that they had like the Muppets at a party, but then all the ghosts at the mansion were the same Muppets.
Yeah.
Who were at the party.
Yeah.
Which they kind of explain in the story where there's just like, oh, this house can show you things. And it's just like, okay, so this is just Gonzo imagining these ghosts as his Muppet friends as opposed to like whatever. But I thought that was kind of weird. And then, like you said, it just became the Gonzo and Pepe story when it's like, okay, like I think the Muppets are at their best when it's kind of like an ensemble piece. And, you know, you have a lot of people love Muppet Christmas Carol, and that was very much Gonzo and Rizzo as like the narrators, but you did get lots of Kermit and everything. You pretty much only got like 12 seconds of like every Muppet, or like they were just used for one joke and they were gone. Like you spent more time with like Walter and the Six Husbands than you did with Kermit and Miss Piggy, which was just like weird that wedding bit seemed to just keep going on and on and on.
It's nice to see Walter again.
Yeah, I'm glad that
he's like part of the crew.
Part of the crew, yeah. Like, they don't throw away characters.
Yeah.
And I like that you saw so many characters. It's just a shame that so many characters you love were kind of relegated to just sort of a bit. And I think there are some quality jokes in here. For example, I liked... It was a throwaway joke that I think, like, most people wouldn't laugh at, but I appreciate it, where the first time you see the Great MacGuffin, and it says on the poster, the Great MacGuffin and the red herring, it's like, look at this guy and his fish friend or whatever. And just like, oh, that's funny that they thought like a red herring was a fish, and then it like cut to the end and he had a red fish like talking in his pocket. I thought that was pretty good. And I liked that Pepe is Spanish, and he was speaking Spanish to Will Arnett, and he's like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" He's like, "No." And I like that joke. And my favorite joke in the entire show, and I think it's a great bit just in anything, is Miss Piggy's globe rhyme where she says something along this or that. In order to escape, you must use the X at, and they're just like X at, and she's like, yeah, it's just hard to rhyme that with stuff, and he's like, rat, a fat rat hat. And then and then you just hear off screen like, "Hey, buddy," and they look over and there's a fat rat with a hat on. Yeah. He's like, "I prefer husky."
Yeah.
And then it pans up and you see the exit, but it's spelled E-X-A-T. I was just like, "Wow, this is an amazingly written bit. This is what the whole movie should have been." Like the whole movie is filled with puns, and I'm a big fan of puns. So but sometimes it's just like eye-rolling puns, or just like that joke doesn't really land, and that's the problem. Like I think a lot of these jokes don't land because most of these jokes are for adults. Like visually it's for kids, joke wise it's for adults, but the adult jokes don't necessarily work. So it just lands that weird camp of who is this movie really for, and it's kind of hard, and that's why the movie I think doesn't really work.
I like Pepe, his pronunciation.
You said it right.
Okay, pronunciation. Yeah. I liked his pronunciation of certain things where he's just like, oh, where's the champagne and the horsey hors d'oeuvres? It's just little things like that. Like, okay, that's good. But then they did a joke and someone pops up and they're like, don't worry, we won't explain every joke. And it's like, well, you coming in and explaining the joke kind of ruined that joke in the first place. And there was just many jokes. I was like, ugh, that's not funny.
Yeah, I didn't mind talking to the audience or just oh yeah, we'll get back to this in 10 minutes or whatever it is. Not all that was fine. I don't mind that stuff, but it's when you're doing it at the expense of other jokes, it's a shame. Yeah. Another thing that I appreciate about the film is it's really quite accurate to the Haunted Mansion ride for a good portion of it. Going to the room that stretches, and a lot of the dialogue is taken straight from the ride itself. I think once you leave that room, you go into a hallway, and the hallway that they walked into looked exactly like the hallway that you would walk into.
Ballroom scene.
So they had the ballroom scene. Yeah, I almost wondered wait, did they shoot this at the Haunted Mansion? But I think they just created a sound stage or whatever and just kind of recreated the ride.
Well, let me talk about that for a second.
Okay.
I thought this movie looked like trash. Everything looked like it was shot on a green screen. Nothing looked like a set, and it all looked terrible. Now, I'm all for them, erasing wires and stuff, so you can see, Muppet feet moving and stuff like that. But every shot just looked terrible.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just part of the budget, or if it was because there's so much ghost stuff, it's just easier for us to do green screen versus... And, I get that. I would agree that it doesn't look great, but it didn't really bother me because I was this is a kid thing. It, doesn't need to. But yeah, I understand that complaint. Also, the songs in this, the first song I didn't love, and the next two I actually thought were pretty decent. But it's Muppets always do musical stuff. I'm not sure if this needed to be a musical. I think if this was going to be a musical, it should have been a full movie to really lend itself to having multiple songs. When it's just under an hour, the music almost feels thrown in. It's just, oh, this is what the Muppets do, which I understand, but I think musicals work when you actually lean into the musical aspect of it, and it should have been a musical horror comedy, not a horror Muppet special with music in it. And then so yeah, the music was fine, but I didn't necessarily need it.
Nothing stands out to me.
Yeah, I don't think any of the it would if this was a movie that was released in theaters, you could have had big musical numbers that really could have sold CDs and had maybe you could have gotten a Oscar for Best Original Song, much like the Muppets did, but you didn't do any of that, which is a shame. Yeah, so this is the main thing I want to talk about because I have a pitch for how to fix this movie. Now, the thing that really held this movie back was there was no real emotional arc. And I'm big on character work and all that kind of stuff. So the big crux of the movie is, Gonzo is fearless, and then his he walks into the 666 room and sees the mirror. He's like, oh, what is the thing I am afraid of? I'm afraid of missing out on being around my friends. But none of that was earned in this movie. There's a line in this which I think is an amazing line from Kermit, where it's just like where Gonzo's watching through the mirror and Gonzo's not at the party that he was invited to because Gonzo had to prove himself as like this fearless guy. And then Kermit says, Gonzo doesn't need to do crazy stunts to be great. He just needs to be Gonzo, which I think is a beautiful line.
Yeah.
And I was like, that should have been the crux of this entire movie.
Yeah, like he should have been going in, and maybe this is stepping on your pitch or whatever, but like Gonzo forces his friends into the Haunted Mansion and gets into these shenanigans they're dropping into traps in the floor, getting stuck in an Iron Maiden and stuff, and like because of his fearlessness, he's actually like hurting his friends.
Right. So once that line happened, I was like, okay, this movie really messed up. So here is my soft pitch that I haven't really worked out, but this is just what I came up with after I watched the movie because I was thinking about it for quite a bit afterwards.
All right.
So if the crux of the movie is Gonzo is what's Gonzo afraid of? So I imagine the movie opens up, and you can mostly stay the same. And I think what really held it back was it being in the Haunted Mansion. You could still do the Muppets in a Haunted Mansion, but it shouldn't have been necessarily based on the ride.
Okay.
So here's my pitch. So Gonzo can be invited to the Muppets party, and they're just like, oh, Gonzo, like, or no, it's not necessarily a party. It's like, oh, the Muppets are hosting a Halloween special, and they're getting ready for their next Halloween show. And Gonzo's just like, okay, what kind of like crazy act can I do? I really want to like go all out for this special because I'm fearless. I'm Gonzo the Great. And then Kermit and all of them are just setting up for the show, and maybe he feels a little bit neglected from his friends and everything because they're just like, oh well, it's not, we don't really need to do this, or maybe we're gonna cut your bit kind of thing. And he's just like, no, and I need to show everyone like why I'm so great. And so he's just like, oh, and then some spooky thing happens. He gets an email saying like, oh, come to this ghost challenge at this Haunted Mansion, see how great you are, and if you're truly fearless. And Gonzo reads that and just like, oh, perfect, like I'm gonna go do that. And Kermit's just like, well, we kind of need you here. He's like, well, I don't need you guys, I'm the greatest, and I'm gonna prove it to all of you and why you need me. And so like he kind of like breaks away from the Muppets and has this thing where it's he hurt his friends, and what does it mean to be great? Anyway, so he goes to this Haunted Mansion, but you don't do the ride, you do sort of gothic horror kind of stuff, where much like Muppet Christmas Carol, instead of meeting the Ghost of Christmas Past, Christmas Present, Christmas Future, you have him meet Frankenstein, and Frankenstein is made up of a bunch of different parts, and you have Gonzo going through all these scary situations, and you can still have him going like, oh, I'm not afraid of any of this. And then, but the point of like meeting Frankenstein is just like, I'm made of all these different things. I'm not who I truly am.
I'm not just myself. I'm a collection of things make me who I am.
I took pieces from all these people because I wanted to be, if I did this thing, this would make me great. Or if I did this thing, it would make me great. Okay. And I'm a creation of, I'm what someone else expected me to be. I'm the makings of my creator, and I'm never whole because I'm not me. I'm a bunch of different things. And you can sort of have that little piece of Gonzo just like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm trying to do all this other stuff for other people. And then you have him meet Dracula, and Dracula's like, I wanted my name to live on forever, so I became immortal, and I am a manipulator and all this stuff, and my name is what's important. Like, I want to be something that is eternal and live forever, and like that's what Gonzo wants. It's just like, but like, because all I care about is myself, I've lost, like, I drain the life from other people. Like, I suck life that I can't have. Like, it sucks to be me. And so you have this sort of like, I can live forever. Everyone knows my name, but it doesn't matter because I don't have love. I drain life from other people, all that kind of stuff.
And anybody I loved comes and goes because I live forever and they don't.
Yeah, and I don't have my moment in the sun because I literally can't go outside. Like that kind of stuff. It's like I sacrificed everything to be great and immortal, and it doesn't matter. And then you can have him meet the Wolfman or something like that. Who's like, I change who I am all the time, and I'm like this fierce thing, and I don't fear anything because transform into this beast. I am this monster, but I don't, I don't want to be like. And basically, all this is just kind of like have him meet these horror characters where he isn't afraid, and you can still have these scary bits in this mansion and do ghost stuff. But really, it's all about what it means to be yourself and a great person and have friends. And here's all these things and like maybe the biggest monster of all is yourself and how you treat others. And then when he goes into the room and he sees the mirror and sees all of his friends like having, like putting on the show and having a good time, and they're like, but they talk about like, maybe he sees at the beginning, like his fear is, oh, my friends hate me and they don't like me and I've pushed them all away. And some of the ghosts maybe take their form and go like, oh, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. Like you're not so you're not so great. And then he sees in the mirror Kermit say, Gonzo doesn't have to do this stuff. He just needs to be Gonzo. And then he's great. And that's the thing that breaks him down. It's like, oh, I do care about my friends. They do matter to me. I need to get out of this house and get back to them and get to the show. And that's the emotional crux of the movie. So you can still have the Haunted Mansion. You can still have this scary element to it and all the comedy bits. And I think you're right. Rizzo should have been his partner. And it's a shame because, Rizzo is the scaredy cat. And that would have lended itself to more comedy. Like, I like Pepe. I think they have a good banter between them. But ultimately, I think Rizzo would have worked better. So that's my pitch. And then I think even with that pitch, you could have had even better musical numbers. So the first, like, here's my song that I came up with. I'm not going to sing it. It's just, the song is called, like, Why Am I So Great? And the first time you hear it is him going like, why am I so great? Because of this, because of this, because of this. It's like a confidence song. It's like, I'm great because I do all of these things. And then there's a reprise when he's like sad. It's like, why am I so great? And it's all about like, why am I so great if I lost this? And like, it's more of a like, I'm a fraud kind of song. And then the end song is like, why am I so great? Because I have friends. And it's like it's a happy song about, having friends. And that's like the main song that carries the film. So that is the end of my pitch.
Bravo, Steve. I love it. It's simple, but it makes a lot more sense than what we got.
Now, I didn't think about bringing the Muppets into the mansion itself, but I think that is a good idea in terms of just like, okay, well, like, yeah, they were putting on the show, and it's like, I'm going to prove to you guys, come to this thing, and like, maybe they do fall away, like you said, into traps or get caught by these things, and it's up to Gonzo to save them. He's like, I'm sorry I pushed you guys away and put you in the situation to try and prove something to myself. But yeah, you guys are the things that make me great. That's why I'm Gonzo the Great. So I didn't think about that, but I like that idea. So it all works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking it'd be fun. You could have Bunsen and Beaker being like the Dr. Frankenstein to Frankenstein. You could even bring the Count from Sesame Street to be Dracula.
That'd be a fun crossover.
I just don't know who's the last one. Who's the Wolf Man,
Yeah, I mean, I guess Rolf is a dog man.
Is a dog, yeah.
I mean, or like those horror monsters could just be celebrity cameos.
Oh, yeah.
And because obviously this movie needs cameos, or they could be ghosts, whatever. Like maybe it'd be a fun thing. Like I know you typically want but like maybe you get Javier Bardem to be the Wolfman because he was like you could maybe bring in people who have sort of played these characters before. Obviously, it just depends on who says yes to showing up in the Muppets.
Wait, but when was Javier Bardem a Wolfman?
In I think like 2011. Not Javier Bardem. Sorry, Benicio del Toro.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I mean, Javier Bardem would make a good Wolfman. Yeah. That's for sure.
But yeah, they could have been real or puppet characters.
Yeah, you have real people as the monsters, and you have, you have someone play Dracula, and the Count is there just because he is our vampire character. You have an actor play Frankenstein, but you have Bunsen and Beaker there, so you could have a little bit of both.
And then maybe even at the end when Gonzo realizes, that his friends are important, and the house no longer is like this horrifying thing, and you could have maybe Gonzo sort of not necessarily make friends with the house, but like all the creatures, and it's like, okay, well, like we still need to put on a show, and there's running out of time. It's like, well, what if we do it here? And then like you have a big final number with all the ghosts and the monsters and everything, and like all the Muppet fans come to this haunted mansion for their big Halloween special, and that's how you end the movie.
I love it.
Thank you.
I think the only thing we really haven't talked about is the wedding part with Taraji P. Henson.
Yeah, which like remembering the ride, there is a small part where they talk about like, oh, this woman who's like killed a bunch of her husbands with an axe, and it's like, okay, that's a nice nod to the ride. It's just like they needed something to do with Pepe, and they're like, what do we do? It's like, okay, let's just make him marry the axe murdering woman, which is fine.
But it goes on and on and on.
It takes a long time, and nothing against Taraji P. Henson, but like, her whole like, oh, King Prawn, like I didn't know, like it didn't really explain like why this was like I get that Pepe might have been like, oh, he just wanted someone to call him like King Prawn, like it's very hot when a woman is being sexy to me and calling me the king and stuff, but it was just like she was kind of like casting a spell over him, which is like how she killed all of her other husbands, I guess.
But then she had to feed him like weird poison grapes to actually
spider grapes. It's just like I didn't quite get like her, like she could have done all this like instantly, it felt like. And it was just weird that like all of her husbands were there going like, oh yeah, she killed me and she snapped my neck, and it's like, so there's all these guys going like, don't do it, bro, but she just is just like, shut up, and they're like, all right, cool, like we'll see this. The whole bit just seemed weird and didn't really work for me. Like she should have been like the villain throughout the entire thing and kind of showed up in the beginning, and I don't know, maybe laid some more groundwork as to like I don't know, like it was fine for the context of the short film, but I think you could have, if you're gonna have a villain character, maybe she should have been the host who brought them here for the sole purpose of like adding them to the 999 collection or whatever it is. But it really was just a test to see like if you remember to like your friends, I guess, at the end.
Well, one thing I'm surprised that didn't happen, which I thought as soon as the door opened, I was like, oh, this is the thing. But it's not Will Forte, it's Will Arnett. Will Arnett is like the butler of this house. And I was like, oh, he's the great MacGuffin. He's the magician that disappeared. He is now trapped in this house, and he's either doing this so Gonzo will take his place and he can move on or whatever, but nope.
Just like, come, hang out.
Just a guy. Yeah. What happened to Great MacGuffin? I don't know.
Yeah, just died in the house.
I guess.
Yeah, it was just another missed opportunity that didn't really flesh out its story. And I know, like, when you think Muppets, maybe story isn't important. It's like, oh, it's just about having a bunch of, like, fun celebrity cameos and musical numbers and like let's just watch puppets do weird stuff. I get that. I think when you're making content though, you should try and make it as best as it can be. And I don't really know, and no disrespect to the Muppets Corporation, you've put out lovely content, and I don't think this movie is bad. I think it's enjoyable enough to watch. I just think you really had a missed opportunity to make something great. And when you make content for the sake of making content to keep the Muppets name alive, you're not doing it any favors when it's just lukewarm stuff.
And the longer you do this, the more people go, well, I don't care if the Muppets are still around because they constantly just release crap.
Like, if not to compare everything to Marvel, but it's like if Disney can partner, and granted Marvel has 80 years of content they can pull from, and strong fan service behind it, it's like if someone's in charge of Marvel and keeping all this stuff on track and consistently making good stuff, whether you say it's formulaic or not, that's fine. But like, you make good formulaic Muppet movies. Like, they don't have to be fantastic Oscar-worthy stuff by any means, because no one expects it to be. It can just be fun children's fodder. But like, there's plenty of animated movies that are good for kids but have like great jokes, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Mitchell's vs. Machines, all those other kind of movies that just have like really snappy jokes but also fun for kids. Do that, but with the Muppets.
Yeah, and they did that with the last two movies.
Yeah, the first, the remake of the Muppets was probably one of my favorite movies that year. I thought all the jokes were funny. The music numbers were great. Won an Oscar for them, actually, and like had a heart and introduced a new Muppets character that is now part of the Muppets like team. Yeah, and Walter was great.
Yeah. And I like the second one. I mean, not as much, but
the second one's fine.
I wasn't expecting much out of it, but it was a very funny sequel. Good follow-up.
So, Muppets, if you hear this, Kermit, give me a call, I guess. I'll happily pitch you 50 different movies that we can make.
Absolutely. Okay. So, we don't have an ad today. I guess people don't want to give us money, but it's okay.
I mean, if you want, I can make an ad. It's just we'll just have to add it in later.
No, it's fine. This one's nice and short and sweet, and it won't take me a long time to edit. So we'll wrap it up. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for joining us in the Whirlpool. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com and at WRPL Podcast on Twitter. Let us know what you're consuming. Next week, we have a bunch of stuff, more spooky things, video games. We got a whole lot coming to you, so please...
It's horror month over here in the Whirlpool.
it's a whirlpool of slime and blood.
Ooh.
But yeah, do all those annoying things, like, subscribe, and blah, 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 blah. Tell your friends. Try to convince them to just subscribe. I don't care if you listen to them. Just subscribe. Just get our numbers up, please.
You don't have to like and subscribe to be great. You just have to be yourself. But like and subscribe.
But please do it anyways. Yeah. All right. Well,
make us great.
Until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Goodbye, everybody.